Thanks so much, Gavin. How are you doing, first of all?
Okay, so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did it go yesterday? You played yesterday.
Yeah, I played yesterday. I mean, I haven't done a drum festival since 2016.
Okay.
I gave up doing them. It's so surreal, you know. You're out there on your own, because I'm normally playing bands. And I thought, I probably look really miserable because there's no one to smile at. Right? When you got the bass player, the guitar player, and you turn around, oh, look, there he is. And you sort of, but there's no one to look at except my computer. And you might not realise, but when you're out there, the audience, it's so dark, it's like you're playing to a black curtain on your own with a computer. And it's kind of surreal.
Yeah.
But got it. It was okay. It went all right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, obviously I've been rehearsing it at home.
Yeah.
I've been playing through the songs. And so the first few minutes, you're trying to get used to the difference of the sound and what it's like at home. Even with the exact same in-ear monitors in, you can still hear the room. You never get a good mix on drums because the drums are so loud. So when you're the drummer in the band, you never get a great mix in your headphones, because even if my headphones weren't plugged in, I can still hear all the drums and all the cymbals, even with these custom-made in-ear monitors. And I've got ones with lead plates on. Can you believe that?
Wow.
A German company made these ones with lead plates on the outside. They're really heavy. And I wanted the maximum isolation. But when I'm at home, I quite often practice the drums just, you know, I just put the in-ears, they're not even plugged in, just to protect my ears a bit, because my tinnitus is pretty bad. I called the tinnitus helpline, but it was just ringing and ringing. Yeah. But I have got pretty bad tinnitus. I think from the, you know, in the 80s I was playing with Iggy Pop, and we didn't have, no one had told me to put kind of protection in my ears. It was so loud on stage that when the bass player played the bottom E on his bass guitar, my eyes vibrated in their liquid. I don't know if you've ever experienced sub bass like that. It's terrifying. God, what was that? And it's literally the subs coming through the stage, and your eyes will vibrate in their liquid. It's terrifying. But, you know, and I'd go to bed every night, my ears were whistling, and I'd wake up and they weren't whistling because I was 22 years old. And then sometime later, I woke up in the morning and my ears are still whistling. And that's it for the rest of your life. You just got it. They're whistling now. And when you think about it, now I'm talking about it, they're whistling now. It's not fun.
No. No, my dad has the same thing. Yeah, it's not fun.
No, actually, I know I always make the tinnitus joke. It's the only one I know. But actually, if you know some young drummers, or some of you are young drummers, you really want to watch it.
So you mentioned earlier that you sort of went off doing drum festivals for a while. Why was that?
Because, well, I'll tell you what happened. I did a lot of drum clinics. I reckon I did about 400 drum clinics and drum festivals and masterclasses between 2006 and 2016. I played every major drum festival there was, and the last one I ever did was in Chengdu, China. And, you know, I don't play drum solos, and I don't really play flash fast things. I don't cross my arms, I don't spin the sticks, and I don't do terrifyingly fast show-offy drumming, right? And I always got the feeling, I bet that's what the audience really want. And when I went to this thing, I arrived on a Saturday and I was headlining on Sunday night, and the Chinese lady who was running it said, "Oh, do you want to come and see a bit of the show?" I thought, yeah, all right. And it was really big. There was about 2,000 people. So for the first time ever, I sat at the back of this thing, and there was a drummer on who, I won't mention his name, but he was that kind of drummer who did all the tricks and the spins and played really unbelievably fast, which is amazing. And then I could hear the audience react to it, which was exactly what I feared all along. See, when I'm up there with the in-ear monitors in, I can't hear anything of the reaction of the audience. Even when I was talking to the audience yesterday, doing my best jokes, they just die on their arse, because it's like, you say something, oh, is this on? And, you know, so that's the downside of wearing in-ear monitors. You don't hear the audience. You can hear them applauding, hopefully, but nothing, you don't hear any of the, ooh, that was nice, you know. But anyway, I did. And they reacted to every flash trick this drummer did. And I thought, this isn't me. This isn't why I play the drums. I'm not, you know, you can feel like a performing monkey up there. It's not fun. And I kind of got a bit paranoid about people filming me all the time. And it was like, you know, go on, there's like 2,000 people with their eyes, like, oh God. And then, you know, any mistake you make is going to be on YouTube straight away. Gavin Harrison messed up this fill, check this out. So the pressure's on in a way that was just not fun. You know, I'd do recording sessions when I was younger, and when I was a kid, I used to go to the BBC where my dad worked, and I got used to the idea of the red light coming on, and everyone's adrenaline went up a little bit, and there's a feeling of being in record, right? You feel different when you're rehearsing, and they said, right, okay, guys, all quiet, we're going to go in record now. And then the pressure comes on. And the downside, or the opposite side to that, was when you got to play live in a pub or a club. Great, you can just play, feel relaxed and know that it's not being recorded. But since about 2010, when everyone had a phone that could do it, well, every gig's record. Many times over. You know, you can make announcements and all that, but people still film you. And, you know, you go on stage with Porcupine Tree, there's 12,000 people all with their iPhones out. I don't love that feeling, to be honest.
Yeah. And for this year, coming to the UK Drum Show, were you able to overcome some of that pressure that you were feeling?
Well, luckily, not only are my ears gone, my eyes are gone as well. So luckily, I can hardly see anyone doing it. It's only when someone's got an iPhone with some kind of phone with a light on it.
Yeah.
When I played Anesthetize yesterday, someone down there had a light on. I thought, oh shit, here we go. But most of the time, you can't see it.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I mean, you've already mentioned Porcupine Tree, and I was going to ask about the long list of credits that you've got on your CV. We may as well start with Porcupine Tree. Can you tell us how that opportunity came about? How you first joined the project?
Sure. I knew the keyboard player Richard Barbieri. He was a friend of mine since the late 80s, and he told me, "Oh, I've joined this progressive rock band called Porcupine Tree." Oh, great, okay. And bizarrely, I actually went to see them in 2001 at Shepherd's Bush Empire. And me and Hannah went, and after about an hour, I thought, oh, that's enough of that, isn't it? I'll send Richard a text to say I'm not feeling well. Because you've either got to stay to the end and then go backstage and say nice things. And I didn't know any of the music, and it was good. I was quite impressed that 700 people, they filled downstairs, and they were playing weird odd time signatures, but I didn't know any of the songs. And so I thought, well, I've got an impression, that's pretty good. He later found out that I was just bullshitting with the text. And about 6 months later, he called me up. He said, you know that band that you came to see and then pretended you were ill and went out? I said, yeah. He said, our drummer's just left, and we've got to go to New York in 3 weeks' time and record our big album. I know you're a session drummer. Would you come and play on it? And I said, yeah, all right. So Richard and Steve came out to my house, played me the demos, and I thought they were really good. Really, really good. I really liked it. And then I flew to New York, played on the record, and came home again, and then they came back and said, would you consider joining the band? And I said, oh, what does that mean? Because I hadn't really been a band member before.
Yeah.
And what it meant was you're going to get it was a 4-piece band at the time, 25% of nothing. but it will be an even share. And to give you some context, from 1992 to 2000, I'd been working with this enormous Italian star called Claudio Baglioni. He's not known outside of Italy, but he's like Italy's Elton John. And we would do like 10 nights in an arena in Milan, 20,000 people a night, 10 nights in Rome. We'd do 7 months in Italy. And in the summer, we'd play the Olympic Stadium, 2 nights, 92,000 people a night. He was a megastar, and it was mega money. Tony Levin was playing bass, and it was 5-star treatment, limos and hotels. I didn't realise joining Porcupine Tree was going to be going around in a van and sharing rooms and coming home after 7 weeks with literally nothing. That was it. So it was a shock, but to be honest, I'd got to a point where I'd been a sideman since I started in 1979 professionally up to 2001, 2002, and I thought, yeah, you know, maybe it's time to see what it's like to be a band member and see what that, you know, get involved in the writing, get involved in the production, the mixing, the recording, the promo, and the royalties, which were at the time nothing. They did really pay back in the end, but it took many years. It was a long-term investment. But I like the guys, I like the music, so that's a very long way to answer. How did I get the job?
No, that's a very good answer, thank you. When they called you over to record the album in New York, were the drum parts already written, done for you, or did they expect
They were programmed. Steve Wilson had programmed them in the drum machine, and they were really good. Really good. I thought, you know what, even if I just played what's on the drum machine, it's just really good. I mean, I added my own thing to it, but I didn't really completely rewrite the drum parts. Steve's a very musical guy, and he wrote, sometimes non-drummers can write good interesting drum parts on a drum machine or a keyboard that you wouldn't think to play as a drummer. Think, oh, that's really good. Like the sound of Muzak, right? Sort of 70% of that is what Steve wrote on a drum machine.
Okay.
I didn't really come up with most of that part. So, and I thought, oh, that's quite a good drum part. I could take credit for that.
And the Porcupine Tree gig and the King Crimson gig, how did King Crimson come into the picture?
Okay, so about 2007, Robert Fripp used to be the opening act for Porcupine Tree. He would go out and play his soundscapes, which were just loops. Like we'd play one note every 10 seconds. And some people in the audience were not really that pleased about it. And I would watch from the side of the stage, and some nights they were chanting, you know, play some effing guitar, you silly old, see you next Tuesday. And slow hand clapping him. They thought he was going to go out and start doing like King Crimson medleys and things. And one night they were really kind of getting restless and slow hand clapping and booing and shut up, you effing old man. And Robert walked off stage towards me. He said, I do like a strong reaction. Well, God. He definitely got a strong reaction. Yeah. Anyway, so he saw Porcupine Tree play about 50 times, and he invited me to play with King Crimson in 2008. Okay. We did one tour in 2008.
Okay.
And then we stopped, and then he put it all back together again in 2013.
Yeah. And that carried on for a little while after 2013.
That was 8 years from 2014 to 2021.
Okay. And so before Porcupine Tree, you were saying you'd kind of hopping from gig to gig. Then Porcupine Tree, you're part of a band. Mm-hmm. And with King Crimson, was it the same thing where you're part of this group of people and that's your gig?
Yes, very generously. He's a very nice, fair person to work for, is Robert Fripp. He splits everything equally. So I got paid exactly the same as Robert Fripp. Everyone in the band gets paid the same. All the crew, we stay in 5-star hotels, all the crew stay in the 5-star hotel as well. He really is very generous and social-minded guy like that. So I kind of was a band member and a partner in the business, but I never felt like it was my band. It was very obviously Robert's band. He encouraged me to write things, and that particular version of King Crimson had 3 drummers, and he assigned me the job of arranging for the 3 drummers. And he said, I want you to do some drum pieces. So I wrote 4 drum pieces, and we would perform at least 2 of them every night.
Okay. Incredible. What was that experience like, writing for not just one drummer yourself, but 3?
Yeah, weird. I mean, I've got a studio at home, so I can record myself playing 3 times.
Yeah.
There's always quirky things that a drummer can do, and you ask another drummer to do it, and they're like, oh, do you do 2 lefts there? That's really weird, you know. So we adapted some of it when I got in the room with Bill Riflin and Pat Mastalotto, and I showed them what I'd written. Well, I sent it to them ahead of time. And, you know, we adapted it a bit more.
Okay.
I guess what I wasn't ready for was 3 different time feels. Even though we do a lot of it with a click, people don't play to a click exactly the same as the next person. Really. You'd think, oh, a click, well, we're all going to be together. No, because people don't really play on the click. They lean one way or the other. Some of them lean back or forward, and some of them move side to side. You know, it's a sort of an approximate thing.
Yeah.
Where when I track myself playing 3 times, it sounds much tighter because I've got the same time feel to a click myself, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So so you've raised something that I was going to ask about. So there's one track you did with King Crimson, Indiscipline, where it has this kind of long intro, and each drummer takes, I'm not sure how many bars, but it's sort of like, the drummer does a section, how many bars, then it moves to another drummer, and it cycles. And I was watching it, I was like, this would take me so long to lock in with other drummers like that. And because it's quite technical, and the timing has to be really on it. So was there extensive rehearsing with the other drummers? Yeah.
The first tour I did, we rehearsed for 7 weeks, and we played 11 shows. Maybe the next tour, we rehearsed pretty much 7 weeks. We found it more helpful, actually, for the drummers to rehearse on their own.
Yeah.
So we'd start off with drum rehearsals. Jacko, my friend who played guitar and sung in the band, he lives just up the road from me. I said, can you make me a demo of like Indiscipline or Discipline or, you know, any of the songs? And then I can go in a studio with the other 2 guys, and we can play to the song plus a click. You know, we might want to just rehearse one section over and over and over and over. It's hard to do that with the band. And so we'd probably do a couple of weeks drum rehearsal before we got with the band. And likewise, they would rehearse in another studio, Robert, Jacko, Tony and Mel. They would rehearse to like program drums, or sometimes I would make a demo of the drums. This is what to expect. I'd send them my three multi-track version of myself. I say, it's gonna sound something like this.
Yeah.
So they'd go to maybe Jacko's studio, and he'd have that coming through the speakers, and they'd play to that. Yeah. But it's never the same, really, when you get together in a room with the band. It feels really different.
Yeah. Wow. Incredible. You mentioned one Italian artist you worked with, but you worked with loads.
Yeah, I had a bit of a run.
Yeah, you're big in Italy. What?
Big in Italy for a very short time. I made a record in the late 80s, a kind of strange modern jazz record with a tabla player called Pandit Dinesh, Danny Thompson playing double bass, and me and Jacko. Jacko was singing and playing guitar. And we made this very small album that didn't go anywhere. Fortunately for us, it landed on the desk of a producer in Italy, and he invited us to be the band for his artist, who's called Ideation. And I went out to, I think, 2 tours of Italy and Germany with Alice. And then one thing led to another. A guy called Eugenio Fanardi knew this producer and said, I'm looking for a drummer to play on my new album. And he said, I've been working with this young kid called Gavin Harrison. You should check him out. And then he invited me, and then the guy who ran the studio invited me to play on another album. And suddenly, for a very short time, maybe 2 or 3 years, I was flavour of the month. So I went there a lot.
Yeah. What's that like for you, shifting not only between different genres, different people you're working with, but even cultures and languages? Was that tricky in the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't say much in Italian. My Italian's okay, I can get by. But the thing is, you can recognise people's character in the way they play. People play their personality. They really do. So you can listen to a piano player, you might not be able to converse with him, but you can tell he's a good guy or a bad guy, right? You can tell Steve Gadd's a nice guy just by listening to him play. Even if you never meet him, you know he's a nice guy by the way he's playing. He doesn't talk all over the soloist, right? He's a generous, nice guy, and it comes across in his playing. And when you recognise that, you can recognise it in a bass player, in a pianist, in a keyboard player, guitar player. So it was lovely. There is no difference. It's not like, oh, the Italians play funny because they eat too much pizza or something. And people say, well, what's the difference between working in an Italian studio or a British studio? I said, the only difference is they like to go for lunch. They'll spend 2 or 3 hours at lunch, where in a British studio, you'll be eating a sandwich off your snare drum, right? They love going for lunch.
Okay.
And I love going for lunch. So that's great. That was the only difference. Super high quality, you know, for those kind of stars, they had really the best players in Italy. They were really good musicians, the engineers, the crew, it was fantastic.
Yeah. So we had the wonderful opportunity to interview Bill Bruford. Obviously we spoke about King Crimson. Did your paths ever cross before or during your time with King Crimson?
I didn't meet Bill at a King Crimson show. He came to a rehearsal, but I knew Bill from the early 90s through a keyboard player called Dave Stewart, who used to play with Bill. And I wrote a book called Rhythmic Illusions, and Dave said, I think Bill would be a great guy to write the foreword, which he did. So I actually took a drum kit down to Bill's house, and we set it up, and I showed him my Rhythmic Illusions ideas, and we played through some of them on 2 drum kits. Okay. That was kind of cool.
Nice. Is there any footage of that, or is that just...
No. We're too old for that.
Thinking, like, looking through your credit list, I was thinking, is there anyone Gavin hasn't played with? So I wanted to ask you...
Loads of people I haven't played with.
Is there anyone who's at the top of your list, someone that you would really want to play with?
Ooh, I don't know, half of them are dead. Peter Gabriel, love Peter Gabriel, love his music. Kate Bush. I don't know, you put me on the spot now. I'll think of all these things at 4 a.m. tonight when I'm lying in bed. Oh, I should have said Frank Zappa. You know.
Another question I like to ask drummers is what your listening habits are. Just sort of, not in a super kind of like, I need to listen to this because I want to learn from this or I want to practice this later. Just more of a relaxed, casual listening. What are your habits like?
I tend to listen to the albums that I fell in love with between the ages of about 13 and 20. And they still excite me.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about 1976 to about 1984. And those albums that meant so much to me that I just listened to 1,000 times. I just couldn't get enough of it. So if I'm sitting on a plane and I'm thinking, what should I listen to? There's so many old favourites in there. Oh, God, I love that record. I want to listen to that. And I re-enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't really go searching for loads of new things. I see new things on YouTube when I'm messing around, I see things. Oh God, that's good, isn't it? Right, I'll bookmark that. And yeah, kind of. I tend to listen to something at about 9 o'clock at night until 10.
Okay.
Right. I don't have a shower in the morning. I have a bath every night.
Okay.
I don't know why. I have a bath about 8:30, and then after I get out of the bath, I go into my studio and I put some music on. I don't know why. There's that hour that I just feel, because if you do it in the morning, you've got too many things to do. There's too many emails and phone calls and WhatsApp messages and all these kind of things coming in.
Yeah.
But late in the day, or I might listen to a concert or stuff on YouTube. Might find an old weather report thing or something and watch 50 minutes of that.
Nice. Okay. Could you name a couple of those albums you're referring to that at a certain point in your life were just golden?
Oh yeah, absolutely. One of the first ones was an album called Threshold by a composer, Patrick Williams. Two of my favourite albums ever are Art Farmer albums. Art Farmer is a trumpet player. He played flugelhorn mostly, and it was the period when I really first got into Steve Gadd. So the first album's called Crawl Space, and the second album is with Jim Hall, Art Farmer Jim Hall. It's called Big Blues, and that's when I really got Steve Gadd, and I would just have my headphones on like, I can't believe it. This is a whole new world to me.
Yeah.
And he was on fire, really, but tasteful, really tasteful. He didn't overplay, a lot of minimalism. I think my dad was into minimalism. My dad played trumpet and he liked Chet Baker. And he really introduced me to the idea of minimalism. And one day I thanked him for that and he said, oh, it's the least I could do. Is this on? No, but really, you can say a lot more by doing a lot less than a million notes,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes, and Steve Gadd's a master at it, sometimes you can play something so nice with just a couple of notes in the right place. It's like, oh, just put the snare there. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. That's so true, and it's funny because that comes up so often when we're chatting with drummers. This topic comes up so often. Is there anyone else you'd put in the same bracket as Steve Gadd, as someone that you really
Jeff
like?
Porcaro.
Yeah.
I mean, I listen to a lot of those guys, Harvey Mason and Billy Cobham, Stuart Copeland, Simon Phillips, of course. I listen to a lot of guys. I think Steve Gadd was the one that I really got deep into.
Yeah. I'm the same, because he's had such a long and varied career. He's dipped into loads of different genres. And I think Porcaro definitely as well is someone with that delicateness and that ability to communicate so much with so little.
Yeah, and it's musical. So my two heroes, Jeff and Steve, were very musical drummers with a really nice feel. If I'd have been born at a different time, I might have got into a different type of drummer who played a lot busier, and maybe my whole life would have been different. It was just at that moment in time, late 70s, early 80s, those guys were doing a lot, and especially Steve, a lot of really creative playing that just resonated with me. So I suppose that's my sort of DNA of drum influence.
Amazing, thank you. I'm happy to open it up to people if anyone has any questions for Gavin. Yes.
I'm sure you've been interviewed quite a lot in your career. Is there a question that you haven't ever been asked, but you really think people should have asked you?
Well, that's an interesting question. I don't know. I mean, certainly there are questions that come up a lot. Like, what advice would you give to young drummers and things like that come up pretty much all the time. I don't know, some interviewers are like, right, if you were an animal in the jungle, what would you know, I'm not really into those kind of philosophical questions. I can never think of a funny answer at that short notice.
But maybe at 4 a.m. when you're rehearsing.
Yeah. It moves. I don't know. I haven't sat in an interview and thought, oh, I hope they ask me about this. You just it's just a conversation, isn't it? We're just having a conversation. It's just goes where it goes.
Just a quick one. I mean, obviously you've reached a very high standard in drumming, but do you find that you still need to sort of get behind the kit every day? Is it sort of small practice or routine you do, or do you not have to go behind the kit every day? How so often do you just get there to just do your thing?
Yeah, I get behind the kit pretty much every day, unless I've got something that I have to do that takes me away from that. But a normal day at home, I'll definitely be playing. I'm always working on ideas, and I like to improvise, and sometimes interesting ideas come out of the improvisation. Joe Zawinul used to write by improvising. He just improvised, think, oh, hello, oh, that's quite nice, I'll write that down. Oh yeah, then once you've got the seed of an idea, then I think you develop a technique on how to exploit that idea in many ways, in many different positions, in different subdivisions, different stickings. It's just, when does that first seed come to you? And it normally comes when you are improvising, or you can't really sit down and force it. Right, I need a new drum idea. What can I do? It comes. So I'm a habitual writer. I've got thousands of bits of paper and I write ideas down. Sometimes it helps to film it because you remember the tempo that you played it at and the attitude you played it, the eyebrows, as Frank Zappa would say. Sometimes you're in a particular mood and you play something in a particular way, and when you write it down, okay, that's what I played. You look at it a year later and you think, what's this? Oh, that's not very good, is it? But when you've recorded it in the moment that you improvise it or shortly afterwards, you can remember how you played it and the attitude and the tempo that you played it at. Because some things kind of only work at a certain tempo. But yeah, every day I'm practicing. I mean, sometimes I put on the news or watch a Formula One race and I have a pad and I just tiddle around. But what I realized is my technique for playing on a pad is a technique for playing on a pad. Benny Greb came over one day, about a year ago. He came round to my house and he said, do you only play like that on a practice pad? And I said, yeah, when I get on the drums, I don't play anything like that. Luckily, I've got a drum kit at home, and luckily we live in a house where the neighbours can't hear it. So playing rolls and double stroke rolls and little flaming on a snare drum is a very different feel to playing it on a practice pad. Now, it's no point being great on a practice pad and then crap on the snare drum. So I'd rather put my in-ears in and spend 10 minutes playing on the snare drum that I normally play, because it's nowhere near as bouncy as the pad. And of course, once you've hit the drum, if you looked at it in slow motion, the head sort of goes like that. So when you go to hit the second stroke, the skin isn't exactly where you're expecting it to be. When you play a hard rubber pad, it only moves so slightly, it's always in the same place. Like I played, yesterday I played a song called Anesthetize. I thought I'll do 2 bars, 30-second note double stroke roll. It's actually quite hard to do that well on a real snare drum, because as you're playing so many notes, the head's wobbling around and it's a moving target. So it really helps to practice on the drums. I can actually see my computer screen from my drums, so if I want to just noodle around sometimes, I'll put on, I don't know, a YouTube clip or watch the news or something, or a documentary, and I'll just sit and play at the drums. And something might happen. You know, I don't know, watching a documentary about something and, oh, hang on. Whilst I wasn't really thinking about it, something interesting might happen. And then I'll stop and record it or write it down. I'm kind of old-fashioned. I'm a pencil and paper kind of guy. And the other day, I bought a great super fast scanner. We're getting way away from the topic here. But I scanned 900 photos in one afternoon. There's this super fast scanner where you drop, it just scans a photo in like 1 second. You just go zoomf, zoomf. So I took about 80 pieces of manuscript that I've got on my music stand and scanned them all and put them on Amazon Photos, because sometimes I'm in another part of the world and I think, what was that thing I was playing the other day? And I can go on Amazon Photos and look through and think, that's it. Oh yeah, great. Because it's like an analog memory board, having all the charts written out, all these ideas written out on pieces of paper is my memory on there, but I can't always remember them when I'm away.
Yeah.
So actually that was a really good little thing to do.
I have a question about when you are writing, and are the drum beats you're writing for bands, or are you composing when you're writing things? Like, is it a vehicle for something else when you're writing?
Well, if someone's given me a song to play on, yeah, obviously it's for that song. But I do record a lot of drum ideas, because when I get together, you know, with Porcupine Tree or Pineapple Thief, or more recently with Nick Johnson, I will sometimes give them, like, here's this idea in 11, and I'll record 8 bars of it. And then I'll record another 8 bars, which is a variation of the one in 11. It might have a more of a halftime feel. And then I might think of something else that's in 7 or 6, and I'll record them in like 8-bar blocks. I might even get on my piano and play some chords, or get on Logic and play some bass lines, or pick up my guitar, play some guitar lines. So a writing session, say with Steve Wilson, he might come to the house and I say, Steve, I've got this idea. It's all at, 111 beats per minute. I've got this pattern in 11. Let me play it to you. And then he might pick up my bass and play along to it. So it'll be the start of something. But quite often, once the song's written, I quite often change the pattern. It's developed into something, it's gone into something else. And I've thought, actually, although it's in 11, I don't like the drum pattern now that I've heard what the bass is going to do and the keyboard's going to do, and now the vocal, the drum pattern's too busy. So it'll still be in 11, but I might simplify it or change it, but it's a starting point. I have written sometimes where Steve's come round, picked up a guitar, and I've sat on the drums, and it's like, go on then. Oh, okay, I'll start playing, and then we'll do a 20-minute jam. Those usually don't turn out very well. They just get boring, because we're just both dancing around each other. I think you need to pin one part to the floor, either the guitar part or the drums. So I'll pin the drums to the floor and we'll work on the guitar part to the drums, or pin this guitar part and then I'll work on the drums against the guitar until we start to, we both look at each other like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Yeah, we like this. It's very quick. We know in the first 5 minutes, this isn't going to happen. This is going, or, oh, hang on, something great's happening. And then it's exciting, spend all afternoon developing it.
Yeah.
Back to the improvisation from one of the other questions. I know you did a song where you do a drum circle way out of here towards the end.
Yep.
I'm thinking, like, what's your thought process when you're soloing? Is there like a key where you have like certain notes you're thinking about, so you know where you are in the bar?
Well, hopefully I know where I am in the bar all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's quite easy. That's just in 6/8.
Yeah.
If it's a bit more complicated, like it's in 7 or 11 or 9 or something, I sing the riff to myself.
Yeah.
So if I was playing something in 7 and the bass line was going dong, ding, da 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 boom, ding, da 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 dong, ding, I could solo over that dong, ding, da 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 dong, ding. I don't have to count the 7 and I won't get lost. I'll know it. I mean, maybe the bass player's actually playing that line. So I wouldn't think of soloing and counting or no, I just sing the riff or whatever that is. It's a bit harder if it's just a click. but there are, you know, rhythmic devices you can use to navigate your way through odd time signatures without getting lost.
Yeah.
Could I elaborate on that, please? Because you were mentioning Steve Gadd and Jeff Porcaro. I mean, they've got, like yourself, they've got amazing feels. How many years of playing to the click? After how many years did you feel you were at that point where your personality was in there and your groove? Because that, for me, it's like I'm nowhere near still. How did you get there as well?
I think, you know, when you start off, most people rush. Most people play in front of the beat and they rush it. And when I watch YouTube videos of young drummers, that's about 99%. Sometimes they do a cover of a Porcupine Tree piece and someone sends me a link. Hey, my friend next door's done a cover of The Sound of Music. And in the first 3 seconds, I go, oh man, you're so far in front of it. So when do you become aware? I think I became aware, well, when I first started doing sessions and the producer would say, yeah, you're rushing that. And I think, was I? Christ, I can't hear that. You know, so come in here, have a listen to this. And I listen to it and he'd say, yeah, you see, you're really in front of the beat there. And I think, God, I can't hear that. So I spent a long time at home analysing that kind of thing. Back then, I used to practice with a Porter studio. And on a Porter studio, you've got a pitch wheel. This is an old cassette thing. If you don't know what cassette is, oh no, yeah, sorry. I think we'll be all right. But this little cassette machine, I could play to a click and then I could slow it down and I could feel how far ahead or behind I was with the click. Now it's easy, you just look at a screen, but we didn't have screens in those days. You can clearly see it. So I kind of got obsessed with, I feel like I'm playing in front of the click. I feel like I'm rushing the fills. How do I stop myself rushing? I'll tell you one thing that drives me mad every time I hear it, right? The beginning of Eastenders, right? Whoever did that rushed it. Because Eastenders in 1985 didn't have the do, 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 but it just went da, 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 da. I can't believe we're doing this. Right? And every time I hear it, then someone did an overdub, right? And so what it sounds like to me with my very timing sensitive ears is this. Do 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 dun dun cha dun dun cha. But it's like you played it too fast. You know, sometimes in a band you've got a tempo like 100 beats per minute, and I'll stop the band and say, guys, you're trying to play this song at like 103, 104, and I'm trying to hold you back, right? Now, I really liked the way Jeff Porcaro and Steve Gadd made the music feel, and to me it felt like they were laying back on the beat. So I think I spent years trying to not rush and trying to lay back on the click. Now when I try to play on the click, I am naturally behind it. I just can't help it. I'm trying to play on the click, but I just lean one way. Lots of drummers lean one way or the other, as I've found out many times. Yeah. So I tend to lean a bit on the back, and that gave me the sound that I felt that kind of Jeff and Harvey Mason and Steve Gadd and Rick Marotta and all these guys who could play laid back, the records I was listening to had that feel, and that's what I wanted to copy. The really weird thing is that when I got the gig with the very famous Italian Claudio Baglioni, his MD, Paolo Ginolio, the guitar player, was searching the earth for someone who could play laid back. He said, I can't get any Italian drummer to play laid back. And when he heard me on a record, he was the person who got me invited into that job. And it was basically that I could lay back on the time. I can't really tell you how to lay back on the time, only to be aware of it. I can't really say, okay, so you start like this, and then you just go like that, and then you'll be back, right? It's a sound. It's like swing, right? You can tell someone it goes ting, ting, ta-ting, ting, ta-ting. And you play in a jazz group and they go, yeah, that's swinging like a statue's cock. Right? Can I say that on this podcast? Right? We'll edit that bit out. You're swinging like a statue's something or other. Now, the same with Latin, right? I never play Latin because I didn't grow up listening to Latin. I love Latin music. I love the way it feels, but I'm not going to sit in a Latin group. I will be out of my depth. I can play the beats, but I don't know the authentic feel, right? I grew up playing swing. I know how to play swing and funk and rock and obviously progressive rock music. And it's something that's in your sort of DNA, you know. I didn't grow up in Cuba, and when I was 7, all my family were playing and I was hearing all this thing, and I love it. I wouldn't go near it. Of course I can play Latin beats, but I always feel like a fraud doing it. And it's a sound, it's a feeling, it's not something you could really, even on a computer screen, you can't really analyse this feel, right? It's a feel. And so when I try and play laid back, I'm kind of channeling the sound of Jeff Porcaro and Steve Gadd and Rick Marotta and all those guys who made the music feel that way, and I'm just trying to make the music feel that way. Funny enough, the first time I got in a studio with Steve Wilson, we went to John Henry's in London just before I went to New York to record with Porcupine Tree. And I played along to the sound of Muzak, and he said, I think I'm going to have to speed the song up. And I said, why is that? He said, you make the whole song feel slower than our previous drummer. You actually make the song sound slower because you're playing laid back. So I like the feel of it, but I'm actually going to speed it up a couple of beats to where it was originally.
I think there's a lot to be said about that, because it's funny how there are some things to do with drumming, like you learn your rudiments, paradiddles, technique. That's so black and white, like the paradiddle's paradiddle. But the feel is really difficult to learn and really difficult to teach. But it was interesting you describing that you'd slow the cassette down so you could really hear, oh, okay, that's where I'm landing.
Yeah.
I also didn't expect Eastenders to come up. So thank you for that. That was a good tidbit.
Right.
We have time for a couple more, yes.
Can you give us the background on the groove pattern that you did for Drumeo, which was the double paradiddle over a double bass drum Herter rhythm?
What? Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. So, how can I describe it? If you know what a Herter is a hybrid rudiment. It's 2 fast notes and 2 slow notes. You could say 2 16s and 2 8 notes. So it goes digga-da-da, 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 digga-da. So you play that on the bass drum. I haven't even got to the next bit. So I thought, well, that's a group of 3. I could play ding ding did a gagong dun, the ding ding did a gagong, you know, the but when I hit the snare drum, it was landing on the double note. So what I did is I took the Herter and started it a 16th note later, so that when I hit the snare drum, it doesn't cover the digga-da-da, you know, the beginning of the Herter.
Right.
So the Herter goes, instead of it going, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You've got it.
Thank you. Yes.
Chimera's Wreck, that is just an amazing piece of drumming as far as I'm concerned. There's so many different parts in it. How long did it take you to come up with all those different sections?
Oh, that took forever, that song.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And interestingly enough, the beginning of Chimera's Wreck was a jam where me and Steve just played. He picked up an acoustic guitar and I got on the brushes and we started playing. And he said, it would be really nice if I could write something that kept doing this, like a kind of boat on water. So we would go dun, 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 oh, I can't remember how it goes, but basically it would go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So we had no click running. He said, "I'll just look at you. I'll play you this arpeggio. I can't remember how it goes. He said, I think I can write a lyric that goes like this kind of boat on a water thing." Great. So we did that. And of course, we couldn't ever repeat it because there was no click. So what's on the album is that jam. And you can hear Steve's guitar in the drum mics and the snare drum in the guitar in his acoustic. When we came to do it live, however, that was a lot harder. Yeah.
Last one? Yeah.
Have you ever turned up the news channel, the volume on the news channel? And
The volume on the what?
news, you watch,
The news channel, when you're watching news on your
Oh, the news. Oh, right.
and there's no tempo, there's no click, there's just random rubbish going on in the background. Have you ever improvised on that?
No, I'm not improvising to the newsreader. No, I don't. I mean, you can, but no, I can't credit BBC News for anything.
It's always on a click that you improvise.
I mean, I'm not playing to a click when I'm improvising,
Right, okay.
so it just comes and goes wherever it goes. And sometimes I think, oh no, this is too fast, I'll play a bit, so I'll speed up or until something settles. I think I'm just searching, I'm just waiting. I could improvise for 20 minutes and it's all rubbish. Or it's all things I've played before, or there was nothing interesting. And then I might improvise again, and after 10 seconds or 10 minutes, I just recognise something I haven't played before. And I think, oh, hello, I've never done that before, that's quite nice. I started playing patterns like from the tom to an open hi-hat with a bass drum. Boom, zzz, bzz, like, you know, patterns of 3, patterns of 5. Oh, what's that? 7. Oh, I could make something out of that. You know, and from a very melodic point of view, which is why I've always had 5 toms, I like to make melodies out of it. I like the 5 pitches. I'm not so good with, you know, a kit that's just like rack tom, floor tom. I don't find that very inspiring. I like having the melodies. And I also, when I play tom fills, I quite often don't play on the same tom. So if I play a fill down the toms, it's quite often, you know, on the 10, on the 8, on the 12, on the 10, on the 15, on the do-dee-do-dee-do-dee-do-dee-dum. And someone yesterday asked me, how do you keep doing those fast triplets up the toms? What hand are you starting with? I said, well, I always start with the right hand, but I put the first hand on the second floor tom and the left hand on the first floor tom. So I go, you can go really fast, still leading with the right hand. If you started on the same drum, boom, boom, well, then you've got a problem, but you're going to be crossing over, or you're going to have to play it left-handed, which is weird to me. So they're all right-handed, but having 5 toms means you can quite often play one drum apart. Now, if you go as I described before when you're playing a roll on the snare drum, when you play 2 notes on the same drum, the head hasn't got time to recover by the time you've hit the second note. So it's a different sound, right? As in the drums speak better because they've got time for the head to recover before. If I hit that drum and then that drum and then that drum, by the time I hit that one again, it's had enough time to play its sound and recover a little bit. If you go, the drums sound horrible because you're overcrowding the drum. The drum can't speak. The tom sounds best when you just hit it once. and then you hear the sound of the drum. Or at least the way I tune my drums. I don't have any damping or any moon gel or gaffer tape or anything. I want the drum to just sing and play a musical sound. So sometimes a drum fill sounds better if you just go do-dee-do-do, boom, that, right? Because the drums sound really, they've only all been hit once, and you're hearing the sound of that drum. If you go, the drums sound kind of thin and a bit nasty because you've overloaded every drum with too many hits, one after another. That was nothing like the question you asked me, was it? Okay. That's the fun of getting old. The next thing you're talking about cheese or something.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. Thanks so much, Gavin,
Pleasure.
for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.